What's up, everybody? It's the Apothecary here, and today we've got a very special episode for you, which I feel like I say every episode, but I mean it every episode. In this episode, I definitely mean it, because today I'm going to do the first entry. I guess I'll go ahead and introduce him since he's making noise. I got a guest, as usual, again this week. An old guest. It's my brother Noah again. Say hi, Noah.
What's up?
And today, me and him are going to talk about... Well, we're going to do the first entry in a series that I'm planning on doing, where I cover the career of a favorite director of mine. And I figured today, a good first person to start off the series with would be none other than Mr. Edgar Wright. You know him, you love him, especially young people these days.
Hey, do you think I'm gonna be a hipster? I'm a hipster. Do you think I'm gonna be a hipster this episode with Edgar Wright?
I don't know. Are you?
I don't know. I feel like I have very hipster opinions sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I a hipster? You know?
Well...
Or am I just... Maybe I should justify my opinion. I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll see if you plan on being a hipster. I know I'm definitely going to have some controversial opinions this episode. So if you do, then you're not the only one. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First off, I'm just going to cover, his career, like, before he became, like, a big-time director, just some of the stuff he worked on beforehand. His first, like, it wasn't really a movie. It was like it wasn't really like a feature film or a short film. It was like this short little 70-minute thing that he did that never really got a theatrical release, called A Fistful of Fingers. It was, as you might be able to guess from the title, a parody of old spaghetti westerns like A Fistful of Dollars. And then he went on to do a little bit of TV work. He directed, I think, every episode, if not every episode, then most episodes, of this cult British TV show called Spaced. And that's where he met Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, because they were two of the stars of that show. And I do believe Simon Pegg was one of the creators also. So that was what, formed that bond between them that still exists today, thankfully. And he also has been known to direct a few music videos here and there. He directed, back in the day, some videos for this group called the Blue Tones, which, if I'm not mistaken, is like his favorite band. And he's still actually doing music videos today, which I didn't even know until I started researching this. He directed a music video for Beck and also one for Daft Punk. I'd like to go and watch those. I don't really watch music videos, but if he directed them, then especially since I assume he directed them a lot like Baby Driver, since that was shot a lot like a music video.
I don't listen to any of those guys.
Yeah?
I don't
either, but I mean Daft Punk occasionally.
You listen to Daft Punk?
Occasionally. I really love Get Lucky.
Bro, if I was in middle school, I would have listened to Daft Punk.
Get Lucky, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. I fuck with Daft Punk a little bit. I'm not like a hardcore listener. But yeah, that was just what he was doing. He also did like a lot of kind of TV movies, a few little short series for the BBC, just getting his name out there. And then eventually he moved on to do his very first movie in 2004. It was Shaun of the Dead, the first installment in his Cornetto trilogy, which was 3 movies that weren't really like an actual trilogy. They were just like thematically similar. They were all comedies. They all had kind of like the same tone and style. They all starred Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And this was the first one. So where does this one rank to you among the Cornetto trilogy?
Well, see, I have an unpopular opinion with this one.
Yeah?
Because most people think this is, like, the best. I mean, like...
Well, I wouldn't...
It's usually between this or Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
But, at least with the Cornetto trilogy.
Right, but out of the 3...
Well, a lot of big popular opinions Shaun of the Dead, because it's the original, it's, like, one of his oldest ones, so it's, like, the best one.
Well, it's his oldest one.
It's his, yeah. But, yeah, I think it's probably my least favorite out of all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, not that matters, because, like, your least favorite in the Cornetto trilogy is still
it's still
more amazing than like most other movies.
Shaun of the Dead is a great movie.
Oh, for sure. Because like Shaun of the Dead, I would put it like in the middle of the Cornetto trilogy. Mm-hmm. Like it's my middle one. I mean, they're all just fantastic movies, so it doesn't really matter what the placement is.
I don't just mean it's the worst in the Cornetto. I mean it's like the worst.
Out of all his movies.
Out of all his movies, I think it's the worst.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's even more bizarre. I do think that's weird.
Yeah, I think it's. Again, it's still a great movie, but
right. But again, like
it's my least favorite.
Edgar Wright's worst movie is like better than most other movies.
His worst movie is still great.
Right. And I particularly think Shaun of the Dead. Like there have been so many zombie parodies over time.
It's like
particularly like parodying the Night of the Living Dead movies, and this is the best one that I've ever seen.
I haven't seen Zombieland, but I heard
I haven't either. I need to see that. I've heard that's a good one. But this to me, first of all, his visual style is very, very present in this. Like it's present in all his movies, but I just remember the editing in particular in this one was just outstanding.
I mean, it's all his films.
Yeah, but like this one in particular, I remember, and all his movies, it's outstanding.
It was really good.
And this one, I remember just being like, God Almighty! Like that's part of what got me so much into his movies is like his visual style, like very fast paced, like very well edited, very like, and the humor. He's very good at doing comedies. This one was
that's all he does, right?
I guess all he's done so far. Baby Driver was more of an action movie.
It was an action comedy, though.
It was, I guess, kind of comedic, but like not like a lot of his other movies. Like the Cornetto trilogy, those are straight comedies.
I think Baby Driver is definitely like kind of its own thing.
That was him kind of just trying to branch out while still keeping the Edgar Wright style.
Right.
But Shaun of the Dead, I definitely think is just an outstanding movie. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost both kill it. The whole cast. It's very nice how it pays homage to movies like Night of the Living Dead and all that kind of stuff. And you know what's interesting is like it's a comedy, right? And it's hilarious, but at the same time, you know, it manages to pull out a lot of non-comedic moments that really work.
Yeah.
Like the characters are all actually like Shaun's arc in the movie I think is great with him and his ex-girlfriend and his relationship with Nick Frost and you know, like they pull out some good more serious moments and his relationship with the stepdad who he initially doesn't like, but then, you know, when he dies, spoiler alert, he's like super upset about it.
Just a spoiler after seeing the spoiler.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Guys, spoiler alert.
I mean, you guys have to figure that like we're talking about.
You got on me last time for saying spoilers.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to make sure.
I don't care.
I'm just trying to make sure I don't spoil it for anybody.
Yeah.
But
who hasn't seen Shaun? Who's watching an Edgar Wright?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if we're covering his career, then
again I feel like an asshole because what if people are just watching us to listen to us and they're like, oh, I have to see what you were talking about.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Is I don't want to like just assume, you know, like I want this to be accessible to everybody, but at the same time.
Just kidding. You haven't seen the movies. Get the fuck out.
No, he's kidding. But yeah, just definitely a great one. I think if we're talking Cornetto trilogy in the middle, if we're talking overall Edgar Wright, I would also say in the middle. Right dead in the middle. How about that? Yeah, and also I was going to say the third act of the movie, I think, is very great because in addition to it just being very well scripted and well shot and everything, that's when it becomes a lot less of a comedy and a lot more of like a horror movie.
Straightforward kind of zombie movie.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like the way he's able to like switch it like that and have it not be too jolting, have it feel like it's earned and to be able to handle the transition so well. You know, it's nice. And for this to have been his debut movie, like that's impressive. You know, because this to me, I would say is still one of the funniest comedies I've ever seen.
Edgar Wright used to, his older, I mean, I'm sure he still does it, but not in this way. He had this big notepad that he would flip the page and he would have just these big, like, I don't know, like 6-foot note things that he would write the outline for the movie he was doing on them. And there's like pages and pages of it of just bullet points and mapping out the story. And this is just one movie.
Really?
He did that for Hot Fuzz, and I was watching it for Shaun of the Dead too.
Nice.
And
See,
and it was Edgar Wright, and he was like pulling it back. And he was like, "Hey, we did this and we did that, and we mapped it out, and this is for Shaun of the Dead."
that's nice. You know, he really like puts that's probably why all
sure
of his
he
movies are
couldn't
so intricately crafted, is because he like really puts the
I was like,
time.
why waste time on buying like 30 pieces of paper when I can get like 7 huge pieces of paper?
Right.
And flip
efficiency.
them. Exactly.
Cost efficiency.
Right.
There you go. See, that's why
He's a genius.
That's why he's a genius, because he's like super smart about how to approach it.
I know.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead, great movie. And then his next movie came out in 2007, and this to me is still my favorite Edgar Wright movie. Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, this is that's, oh god, where would this be for me? Actually, you know what? This is probably, okay, no, it's in the middle. This is the middle for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At first, thought it was gonna be my second least favorite.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's in the middle.
Yeah, to me, like, Hot Fuzz is the best thing he's done. It had, like, he has really, like, the whole final climax of Hot Fuzz is one of the greatest action sequences.
I think it's one of the best moments of his filmography.
For sure. Like, that, and then just, oh my god, it is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I would really call it one of the greatest comedies I've ever watched. Like, the whole thing with the cults and the greater good.
Yeah, the greater good.
And like everybody in the like, have you ever noticed how the accident rate is very high and the murder rate is so low?
It's very British.
It's very British.
It's very British dry humor, but I have a soft spot for British dry humor.
Yeah. I mean,
wasn't raised by it because it's weird. I like the kind of humor I was raised by was the complete opposite of British humor.
Right.
But I have
American humor.
Well, yeah, but like, just like the type of American humor I like.
Right.
Was totally opposite. And I have a soft spot for British dry humor.
It's that Monty Python style humor.
It is,
because Simon Pegg is actually like friends with all those guys.
Yeah,
and like they're some of his idols.
That's why.
And he helps.
I watched Monty Python as a kid.
And he helps co-write a lot of Edgar Wright's movies. And you know, I think that's where they get it from. And I'm sure Edgar Wright probably looks up to the Pythons too, because every British comedian does. You can't find more legendary British comedians than those guys. And like,
this is a stupid comparison, but I feel like they're the Beatles of British comedy.
Well, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hot Fuzz just, again, oh my god, if you guys haven't seen Hot Fuzz, like, stop what you're doing after you watch this and just go watch it. It is so just if you want to know how to direct either an action movie or a comedy, but particularly an action movie, because like this has influenced my like action sensibilities a lot. Like the whole climax at the end, just such a major influence. And this one to me, out of all three of the Cornetto movies, I think Simon Pegg and Nick Frost work together best in this one, which is saying a lot because they work well together in, especially like Shaun of the Dead, they work together great in that one.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know. I think their dynamic in this one is definitely the best out of all three. I also really appreciate Timothy Dalton as the villain.
He was a villain.
Like, how weird is that? And Jim Broadbent, who I absolutely love. Shout out to Jim Broadbent as the other villain. Yeah, fantastic movie. And then, here's where it's gonna get. Here's where it's gonna get controversial. His next movie, he took a break from the Cornetto trilogy after Hot Fuzz.
Put this one in the middle because he was gonna be the longest talked about one.
Well, I'm going in order.
Oh, really?
This is the order in which...
He made this in between The World's End?
Yeah, he took a break from the Cornetto trilogy.
Oh, okay.
And he made, in 2010, he made Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah.
So a little bit of backstory for me on this one. When this movie came out back in 2010, I was going through a phase at the time where I thought I was being cool, and I thought, like, everything just looks dumb, you know?
My God.
A whole bunch of movies this looks so dumb. But I also just kind of thought, like, it kind of did look dumb. I didn't get it, right? And then for years and years and years afterwards, every single person I knew constantly told me that they just loved this movie. It was either their favorite movie or one of their favorite movies, that it was the best thing Edgar Wright had made, that it was just this masterpiece. And I was like, okay, well, I definitely have to see it and see, like, what everybody's talking about, if I've been wrong all this time. And I saw it, and I was kind of right the whole time. If you are still watching, I appreciate that, because what you basically just heard, not basically, what you just heard was me calling Scott Pilgrim versus the World not that great, which I know makes all of you probably want to kill me with fire, but yeah, I don't think it's bad, but like, it's definitely, no question, my least favorite Edgar Wright movie. I just don't... There's no substance. I'm sorry, but it's true. It's all style and no substance. It's just flashy. It's got... And the reason people my age love it is because it's got everything that you could ever want. It panders to people my age in the perfect way, and that's why they all love it so much. And that's why they will attack me if I say I don't think it's that great. But I'm sorry, it's true. The script isn't that great. The ending is terrible. It completely undermines the point of the story, which is Scott doesn't need Ramona. He learns to respect himself, and despite that, he ends up going with Ramona anyway. He should have gone with knives. It doesn't make any sense. It completely defeats the purpose. And yeah, it's like, I get it, okay? Visually speaking, it's gorgeous. He directed the crap out of it because he's Edgar Wright. But the script is just so by the numbers and boring and not that well structured. And like, I don't know. A lot of the enjoyment comes from the casting, because on paper, right? The scene where he fights, like, the first Evil X, or maybe he's not the first, whichever one Chris Evans plays, like, that scene is just so slow and not that funny, and it drags on for so fucking long. But it's funny because it's Chris Evans doing a funny voice and playing an evil skateboarder guy. Like, that's where... And, like, the one where he's fighting Brandon Routh. Like, that's funny because it's Brandon Routh and he's basically playing Superman again. And, like, the climax is funny because out of every single actor they could have cast in the world to play, like, the final boss, it's Jason Schwartzman. But, yeah, the script for me just kind of drags that one down.
Well, first of all, that thing you said where you said that you thought movies were dumb a lot back then, that phase you had?
Yeah.
That was the reason I didn't see this movie. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, you've told me that.
Because I remember exactly the car ride. You were right next to me, and I was like, "Hey, that's got Pilgrim vs. the World. It looks pretty cool. I saw a TV ad for it." And you were like, "Nah, it looks stupid." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I won't go see it." And then everyone loved it and was grown up, and I was like, "Fuck, I never saw it." But yeah, I loved it. I don't know. I agree with everyone else. Or, I mean, you know, most people.
Did you love the way it was directed, or did you...
I loved the movie, everything about it.
Because I get it. It looks great. It's like a comic book come to life.
I thought it was hilarious.
It's visually very stunning.
I thought it was... You're going to disagree with me. I thought it was the funniest Edgar Wright movie.
Oh, get the fuck out of my face.
Filmography.
Get the fuck out of my face.
I think
you
a lot
cannot
of people
compare this to the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, I think it's the funniest.
Those are all some of the smartest, funniest comedies ever. This one is so empty.
I've seen Scott Pilgrim like 1.5 times. The first time I saw it, I saw the first half. Second time I saw it, I saw the whole thing. And I remember rewatching the first half. There was other stuff I didn't see the first time watching it that I didn't notice, like little jokes in the background or things I didn't pick up on, that I watched the second time and noticed and laughed. I mean, that's a great comedy.
Okay, but what, like, give me an example. What about it was funny?
It was, okay. It basically took, like, what the comics did and did it exactly, like, in the style. And it just had this
the style, though.
Had this really quirky, like, kind of humor to it where... Yeah, it's like, oh, it's just gimmicky because it's, like, not a movie. It's just, like, stylistic. And it's just, like, it's the comic book page. But I think it works because it fully engrosses you in the world. And it, I'm
not denying that the visual style is impressive.
The editing has a lot to do with the comedy. It's very on beat and on point. And it's,
okay, but
it's always snappy. Everything's moving. The plot moves very fast. It doesn't waste a second.
That's not true at all. The plot is slow as hell.
I don't think so. I think
it takes him forever to get through all of the X's.
But that's the thing is that each one is interesting in a new way.
He'll beat an X, and then there'll be like 20 minutes that go by, and then he'll have to fight another one, and I'm just like, oh my god, why are we taking so long? Like the fifth one, the one that Mae Whitman played, like, you know, she shows up in one scene, and then like taunts him or whatever, and then leaves. And then we just go back, and I'm like, why aren't we having the fight now? Why are we taking so long? I feel like we need to be moving faster. And again, like, I'm not going to deny that the editing is great because he's Edgar Wright. Of course the editing is great.
Right.
And the visual style and the editing do help, as they always do in his movies, but that can only go so far. Like, the humor, if it's really that funny, that has to come from the script. That has to come from the dialogue. And the dialogue in the movie is really just kind of by the numbers. It's nothing special.
I thought it was very snappy and creative.
I mean, they tried to be. Like, again, like, it being directed and edited well is different from it being funny. Like, every bit of credit that this movie gets comes from the visual style. And I acknowledge that the visual style is great. But imagine that visual style coupled with an actually, like, you know, on point Edgar Wright script, then I would probably call this his best movie. But, like, for some reason, he and whoever he wrote this one with fell flat this time. I don't know. It's what made me kind of glad. Again, you guys are probably wanting to murder me right now, but it's kind of what made me glad that he didn't get Ant-Man, because
no, are we talking about that later?
I would eventually.
I will not talk about it now. I'll talk about it later.
But yeah, I was kind of glad once I saw this. I was like, oh, I'm kind of glad I didn't get Ant-Man if this is what he was gonna do with it. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, this one to me was just like, it had a lot of potential. And again, I super admire both the visual style and the casting, and it does have its moments. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's overrated as hell, and I really don't think it's anything like that special. It's something where I would just go like, yeah, okay, that was fine. I'll throw it on if I like need to kill time and I have nothing else to watch. But it's just like, you know, my thing is just like, if you just enjoy it for the visuals and the direction, I don't care. Just admit it. I'll understand that. That's better than saying like, no, I actually think it's a really good movie. Like, I don't care if you just admit that you like it for the direction. Like, that's fine. I get it, because it's a very uniquely directed movie. But
I think it's the best one out of all his movies.
You really think it's his best movie?
I think it's his best movie. I think it's tough between this and... Actually, I can't say the next one, but I think this is his best one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you could say that when the Cornetto trilogy exists. Like, all three of those...
It's close.
All three of those are just, like, unbelievably smart and funny, hilarious comedies. Mm-hmm. And this one is just whatever. But anyway, I'm sure we've talked about Scott Pilgrim. I'm sure you guys want to kill me badly enough right now. I'm going to try to save myself from the pitchforks here and go to his next one. His fourth movie, which he released in 2013, the last movie in the Cornetto trilogy, The World's End. Now, I know you have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, which was my favorite one until I saw Scott Pilgrim.
But it's your favorite in the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah.
Which is so bizarre, because, like, no one ever names that as their favorite.
I think it was the tightest and most concise. It's just something about the story everything felt so... like it needed to be there.
I agree.
There was nothing that felt extraneous. I mean, nothing really felt extraneous with the other movies, but it's like there was no downtime whatsoever. Every single moment and scene in the film was fully captivating, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
there was never a downer moment or like a scene where it's like, oh, this scene isn't as interesting as the next scene. Right. Everything was like...
And that's
every scene. The editing was just so on point.
Right. Of course, because it's Edgar Wright.
And it's a great story. And people, I don't know, some people would say, "Oh, the ending went on for so long when they're yelling at the aliens or whatever."
That was hilarious.
Yeah, but that's why it's so funny.
Yeah,
because they're yelling at them for like 15 minutes. At the end of the movie, it's still going.
The joke is like,
"Fuck you!"
Right, like the joke is like, you know, they won't stop arguing. Like the alien is actually answering like every complaint that they have.
I love Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, but those feel more like grounded Edgar Wright movies. Like The World's End feels like he went a little more crazy with it.
Yeah.
He was like, let me flex my creative muscles a little bit more and like do really weird.
Right.
It's really weird because like zombie invasion, and it's a spoof. Okay, and then it's like Hot Fuzz. It's a comedy cop, but it's like it's also kind of weird because like a cult involved. But with this one, it's like there's like. It's just at the start you think it's like
the robots who aren't robots.
But at first you think it's just like some movie where they're like, oh, let's go to all these bars. And it's
it
like
totally takes you off guard.
It's like it's like a Seth Rogen comedy or something where they're going through all these bars and getting drunk, and they like learn from each other like super bad.
Right.
But then like alien and zero robots come in, and then it's like, and there's like, and it's the funniest thing when everyone in the town are just alien robot things like running this, and they're just like,
and
there's an army of them behind them when they're running.
Yeah,
and he's trying to get to a beer place.
And that's the thing too. When I first saw this, okay, so the title is The World's End, right? So naturally, I didn't know anything about the plot, but I naturally assumed it was going to be about them fighting some kind of apocalyptic thing. But like,
I had no idea.
But like 45 minutes into the movie, it's just a normal, like you said, like a normal kind of grounded movie.
Yeah.
And then they go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden they find a robot, and he's got to fight a couple of robots. And I'm like, okay, so I guess this just took a hard left. It reminded me a lot of From Dusk Till Dawn, where the whole like first part is like completely normal, and then it takes this hard left turn where you're like, well, you know what that's about, right?
I don't remember what that movie's about.
Oh, then I guess I won't tell you because it's a nice surprise.
But
and then like that's a great bit also throughout the movie where like it's one of those just really hilarious like dry Edgar Wright bits where like they keep bringing it back like the robots who want robots, and it's like, do you know what the word robot means?
Yeah.
They're not really robots.
I mean, and also, did you see the behind the scenes for the visual effect they did?
I did not.
That scene where he gets his head cut off, there was no CGI. It was all practical.
Get the fuck out of my face.
It was completely 100% practical.
How?
Look it up. I saw a video about it on Twitter. Yeah, and
that's insane.
Edgar Wright like retweeted it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is pretty cool. Is what we did." I was like, "What the fuck?"
I gotta rewatch that scene, and then I gotta watch the behind the scenes.
Like a robot head was so realistic.
That's crazy. Wow, that's actually really Edgar Wright. You are amazing.
I know, right?
Who else could pull that off?
That's like Star Wars levels of like.
That's like Ridley Scott, like Alien level.
But you know, like Star Wars, where they had like the big rigs to like do the spaceships. That kind of creativity is like that.
That kind of wow, that's insane. And yeah, that's the thing about The World's End is like, it's got the reputation of kind of being the worst out of the Cornetto trilogy, and like, okay, it is my least favorite in the trilogy, but like not by a lot. I mean, it's just as good as the other two. Like again, with the Cornetto trilogy, it's just like, you know, who cares about the placement? You know, you only rank them because you have to. Like they're all just amazing movies, and I love all of them like pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And this one, I hate that it's so underrated because it's like it's fantastic.
This is the one that gets talked about the least, which is sucks.
It's fantastic, like because it's just like, you know, like everything you said is true, and then there's the fact that like this one, like Shaun of the Dead, really gets you invested in all of the characters, like all the 5 main guys. I thought were very good character, and here's the thing too. Speaking of their characters, I think this one was super weird because he switched up the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost dynamic in this one.
Yeah, which
because
I actually like that more.
In the first two, obviously, like Simon Pegg was like the straight guy who like had his life together, while Nick Frost was like the slacker loser kind of guy, and in this one it's reversed.
Yeah,
and it was weird to me the first time I saw it. But I liked it, you know, because it was like, oh, we're doing something different this time. And I didn't think Nick Frost could play the straight guy, but he did it really well.
Yeah, he did.
It showed the range from both of them. And after he had cameos in the first two, I was very happy that they actually used Martin Freeman this time. He was one of the most enjoyable parts to me. Mm-hmm. And Eddie Marsan's character, I thought, was also really great.
Yeah.
I don't remember, I think it was Paddy Considine who played the 5th guy, but he was good too. And then It's weird. He always uses James Bond actors because Timothy Dalton was in Hot Fuzz, and then Pierce Brosnan was in this one, and he was funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like you said, it was so kind of cool to see him just go bonkers in this one. Just like, you know what? This is the last one. I'm gonna just go crazy with it. You know, like there's a robot invasion. Every single person in the town is a robot who isn't a robot.
He just got back from doing Scott Pilgrim,
right?
So like he's like,
I guess because
I feel so like, you know,
he's like, I feel so like energy. Like I wanna try something bigger. You know, because Scott Pilgrim was like such a big thing. You know, I want to try something bigger. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like they balance, just like Shaun of the Dead, they balance the supernatural, crazy action stuff and like the story with the characters like really well. Because Simon Pegg's whole arc in this one, I thought was great. Him just kind of wanting to relive the glory days of like when they were all friends and they were doing the pub crawl. And yeah, it was just really nice. I think it's a shame that this one gets overlooked so often because it definitely is just worthy of Edgar Wright. It's a very fantastic movie that has all of his signature stuff in it.
The movie ends with the apocalypse.
Yeah, it ends like they don't reverse it.
The apocalypse starts and it's...
They don't stop it. Like, he just becomes like an outlaw in the future.
Like, that's
how it ends. That's not how it starts. It's pretty interesting.
It's just so different from how it started.
Yeah, like, because when it starts...
Completely two different.
Because when it starts, it's like, you know... Oh yeah, we were mates back in the day, and then like you know it ends like it's the apocalypse and it's a future dystopia where like there are outlaws and shit and everybody's like wielding swords and everything.
Yeah.
I also think I keep thinking of just people who were in it. Rosamund Pike was really good in this.
Yeah, she's really
I think
good.
she really proved her versatility in this one too. Because whenever I think of her, I think of like Gone Girl, but I think this was like the polar opposite, where she was just like the kind of the nice love interest in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, shout out to The World's End. Then after that one, he took a pretty long stretch where he didn't really do much. That's because, you know, he was supposed to do Ant-Man next, but that didn't exactly materialize.
Yeah.
But then after that whole debacle, he landed back on his feet, and he gave us his most recent movie from 2017, which was Baby Driver.
The one with Kevin Spacey.
The one with Kevin Spacey. Yeah.
He's on that poster.
He sure is. But you know what? It's okay because he gets...
They're going to Photoshop him out of the poster from now on.
But it's okay because he gets brutally run over by a car in this movie, and that makes the whole thing worth it.
Oh my God, what if they sign a petition to make like a Kevin Spacey free version of Baby Driver?
That would be interesting. I don't know. I don't think they could do that. But
no,
like,
it's stupid. But it's like the Snyder Cut thing. It's like
right.
They're never. Anyway, that's a different thing.
Right, but yeah. Besides Kevin Spacey being in this, it is
it's a great movie.
It's It's one of my favorite. I put it like my second favorite Edgar Wright movie.
Well, for me, it would be my second least favorite.
Oh, really?
But I mean, like again, still a great movie, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't matter the placement. All his movies are fantastic. Baby Driver is just like, to me, this one was really nice because it felt like an Edgar Wright movie because of the direction and the editing and everything, and because of, you know, the way he directed the action. But it felt like he was branching out with this one. It was less a straightforward comedy and more an action movie, and it wasn't, the humor wasn't British. Like it felt because this was him very Americanized, I thought.
I don't know. I thought it was still his type of comedy.
Yeah, but like American type. I think the movie definitely didn't feel quite as British as his other movies, which is good because it wasn't supposed to.
It's not quite as British.
No, I don't think it was quite as British because it was set in Atlanta.
But like,
which, you know, it needs to feel American because it's in Atlanta.
I just think that it's this. He still retains his sense of style.
No, I agree. Yeah, it felt like an Edgar Wright movie.
I mean, what I'm saying, like, his type of humor, kind of like British humor, I guess. But it's just that the setting's different, and that I guess the characters talk a little different because they're not from the UK.
Right.
That's the only difference, is that their dialogue is just not the same.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's still the snappy.
Right. No, I agree. I'm just saying it's like.
But
it feels significantly less British than his other movies,
yeah.
which is good because that's what this needed. And I think again, the action and the story are balanced very. People really have a lot of gripes with the story in this movie for some reason. I don't understand why.
Only thing I had a kind of problem with was the romance.
I liked it. It was good.
No, it was fine. But
I'm just a sucker for a good romance.
It's not like it was bad. It was just like, okay.
I
whatever.
disagree.
It's kind of like, I know we're about to talk about this in a little bit, but it's kind of like Ant-Man and the Wasp and their relationship where you're like,
that is not a fair comparison.
I don't really care.
That is not a fair comparison
fine,
at all.
Whatever.
This one had way more substance, and part of the reason is because, first of all, this one actually was written well. And secondly, the chemistry between Ansel Elgort and Lily James really helped, I think. And I don't know. The only thing that freaks me out about the romance in this one, I think it's really well done. I think it's like, I was invested in it. I don't know about everybody else. I was definitely invested in it. Or at least I was invested in both of their characters. I wanted to see them get together. I wanted to see them kind of just like drive off together. Maybe that had to do more with their individual character arcs than it did their romance, but I think they relate in some way. I think they correlate together. But the only problem I have with the romance, people have pointed this out, and it's actually kind of freaky. People have pointed out that Baby has mommy issues because Lily James's character is like exactly like his mother.
What do you mean?
Like his mother was a waitress in in the movie. They say that like his mother was a waitress.
In the movie Baby, his mother.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he has mommy issues then.
No, but in the movie, his mother was a waitress in that exact same diner, and he's picked a girlfriend who's like exactly like her.
In the movie, yeah. He has mommy issues, yeah.
It's freaky.
It's like, not freaky. He just has mommy issues.
No,
his mom was a waitress. Maybe she neglected him. Now he's attracted to waitresses in that restaurant. I mean, okay,
that's fucked up.
For it to be in the exact same restaurant's kind of weird.
That's fucked up, man.
But no, I mean that's natural. That happens.
I mean,
he has mommy issues, so that's what.
I don't know. I think that's kind of
funny. I never knew that about that.
That's kind of twisted because they mentioned throughout the movie, like, yeah, I think his mom used to work here.
That's funny.
And she was a waitress too. And like Lily James's character is the exact same person, basically. It's really freaky. But if you can get past that, then I think it's like I enjoyed the romance and I enjoyed both of their characters. I think it also had a very good ensemble, Kevin Spacey notwithstanding. I think definitely my man, my motherfucking main man, my hero, John Hamm. God bless that man. He was so good in this. And I didn't expect him to be the final villain of the movie. I thought that was very... I think... Well, do people have an issue with that?
No.
Because I like it. I think it's like... Because you're expecting it to be either
I don't think anyone really cares.
I think... Well, either way, I like it a lot. Because, like... you're expecting it to be either Kevin Fox or Kevin Spacey or Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Spacey.
Jamie Spacey. But then it ends up, being John Hamm, who he's pretty cool with for most of the movie. And he doesn't set himself up as an antagonistic figure.
That's a purposeful thing.
No, it is.
Think like, this Jamie Foxx, he's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait for Baby to face him at the end of the movie.
It's good misdirection.
Boom, he died. Like, doesn't he die?
Yeah.
He just died. And then it's like John Hamm, the dude he didn't suspect. And then his girlfriend dies, so he's like really fucking
right.
pissed.
Like it's very good misdirection.
So, yeah.
I think it's a good technique.
Subverting expectations.
Don't you
but
dare.
In a good way.
Don't you dare.
But in a good way.
Don't you dare get into that. I will not have Last Jedi talk on this show. But anyway,
I'm just saying in a good way. I was subverting expectations in a good way.
But yeah, it was in a good way. And like I said, very good ensemble. John Hamm does great. Jamie Foxx, as usual, kills it. Isa Gonzalez, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She does a great job. I'm waiting for her to like get a new big project because she's been in a lot recently, but none of it has been particularly like noteworthy. She had a really small part in Alita.
I remember that, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for her to like find a project that like can actually help her get somewhere because she was great in this. And the dude, I have no idea what his name is. The dude who played Baby's caretaker.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he was cool. And just again, breathtaking action. And Edgar Wright, obviously, something he's very good at is using music in his movies, and this was obviously the biggest example of that.
Well, like I said, even
beautiful, first of all, just a great soundtrack in general, and also just every song was used perfectly, I think.
Yeah. Like what I'm saying, what he did back then by planning for his movies, he still does it today, but just in a different way. Because he was telling me he had the idea for this movie back in like the mid-2000s.
He was telling you?
What? No. Okay.
You were chilling with Edgar Wright, and he was like, "Hey, I had an idea for this movie all the way back in the day."
Okay, he said that I know he had the idea for this movie back in the mid-2000s. I'm pretty sure, and he had basically 12 years. Let's say like a little over
the
a
amount
decade.
of time it took to make Boyhood.
The amount of time it took to make Boyhood.
Wow, that's a long time.
12 whole years.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's a long time.
It's a long time. It
took them 12 years to make Boyhood, but go on.
Okay. But what was I talking about?
Edgar Wright's planning for Baby Driver.
Yeah, he basically had a little over a decade of just these thoughts of scenes in his head with music. The music playing to the scene exactly. He had over a decade to think about exactly how those scenes were going to play out. So saying that, I wonder how he makes them so planned, how does he make them so perfect? Because he has so much fucking time to think about it and perfect it. He doesn't think of an idea and half-ass it. He fully commits to it until it's pretty much perfect.
And that's great because I've actually found that out a lot in recent years. Time is a very good way to make sure that your scripts are perfect because you have a lot of time to just think about everything. You're not just sitting down and trying to think of it all at once. You have time to really let everything ferment in your brain. And I guess that's his strategy, and that's why he's so on point usually. Yeah. Because I did know, that he had this idea all the way back in, I think, the 90s. And he just didn't get it made until a couple of years ago because he wasn't ready yet. And that's good that he's patient enough to wait until the right moment when he knows he can make it as good as he can.
Right.
And that's why he's a pro. That's why he's one of the best directors on the scene right now.
Yeah.
This song also did a lot for this movie, did a lot for the song Bell Bottoms. Made it one of the most played songs among teenagers, I'm sure. Also worth mentioning, my boy John Bernthal had a small part in this, and that was a really funny bit that I thought was in the movie.
That was a great
where
bit.
He's like, if you don't see me again, then I'm probably dead.
That's a
he
great,
never comes
I know.
back.
I didn't even notice that until the second time I saw it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because that's another Edgar Wright thing about rewatching it and finding things you didn't notice that are brilliant. Because that's the thing you wouldn't even really notice unless we realize after the movie's over or the second time you see it.
Right.
And that's great when a joke that sits like that. That's
he's
that's so clever.
Right.
A joke that makes you laugh, but not when it's told.
That I know. That's the thing about him. He's so good at layering his movies.
But that's why it's so funny.
Right. He's so good at layering his movies with stuff like that, where it's he knows if you see this again, you're not gonna regret it. Because a lot of times the second viewing may not be as good because you're not experiencing it for the first time. You know everything that's going to happen. So when guys like him come along and are like, I'm going to hook you up. When you see this the second time, you're going to notice a bunch of stuff you didn't see before, and you're going to appreciate it this time because, he's good like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm looking forward to what he's got coming out next. He just a couple of days ago started filming his new movie.
He has a new one coming out?
It's this one's going to be the biggest departure from anything he's done so far. He's doing a horror movie.
That's cool.
I'm excited.
That's cool.
It's called, I think, The Last Night in Soho.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's got I can't remember. Anya Taylor-Joy, the girl from what was it? The movie with the fucking Ben Foster, Leave No Trace.
The daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I'm super happy she's becoming a big star now.
She's pretty good in that.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Smith from Doctor Who.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I love him.
All
right. Which makes sense because Doctor Who is very British and Edgar Wright is very British, so it makes sense that he'd work with a Doctor Who actor. Especially Matt Smith. He seems like the one who'd jive well with, Edgar Wright the most.
Yeah.
So that's everything he's directed. Now I'm going to cover just the stuff that he worked on, like the stuff he wrote that he didn't necessarily direct, like all the projects he was involved in. I don't know how many of you knew this, but he was one of the writers on Tintin. Which, okay, this is super confusing to me. It's been a while since the first time I saw Tintin, and I still don't get it. How the hell do you have a movie that's directed by Steven Spielberg, produced by Peter Jackson, and co-written by Edgar Wright, and have it only be okay?
You know, my opinions,
how is that not the greatest movie ever?
My opinions on Tintin have changed. When I first saw it, I thought it was like okay, and I rewatched it again like a couple months ago.
You did?
I did, and I liked it a little more. It kind of grew on me. I think what's weird, it feels like it was kind of trying to, with Spielberg, I think Spielberg recently has been trying to recapture his old magic, and I feel
He's
like
not doing a very good job.
I feel like yes, I feel like he hasn't been doing as good of a job because
now
we're
not talking about Spielberg,
but what I'm saying is that he directed this movie. I just want to talk about anyway, but yeah, and then this is like kind of one of those movies, Tintin, where he was just like, oh, it's gonna be this big adventure, and it's gonna be like the classic Tintin cartoons.
Well, how did this capture the soul of it?
No, that's what I'm saying. It didn't.
Oh,
there's another example of it not doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
trying to.
But that's the thing, though, that I don't get. Like Spielberg on his own, right? He hasn't been able to maintain that old Spielberg feel for a long time now. But with Peter Jackson and Edgar Wright involved, I don't get how this wasn't just the greatest thing ever. Because any project from just one of these three guys is usually just a fucking, grand slam. All three of them together on one movie. Like, that's crazy. And it was only just whatever, You'd think that, I don't know. I guess it was just probably too many styles clashing at once. Because you got Edgar Wright and his, adventurous, quick wit and everything that he was probably trying to bring to it. You got Spielberg with his, grandiose, an Indiana Jones style, adventure feel that he was trying to bring to it. And then you got Peter Jackson with his, CGI, just sort of I think this should be kind of a visual thing. I don't know. We should get Andy Serkis to come in.
Yeah, it was
everybody just, I think, probably trying to all put their own, mark on it, and it didn't really. It was kind of just a
Maybe
mishmash.
The second one will be better because I think Spielberg.
Are they still doing the sequel?
Yeah, Spielberg isn't going to be involved, and Peter Jackson is directing it.
Last time I heard, that wasn't confirmed yet.
I heard
they've been saying that for almost a decade now.
That's what they still say. Is that he's directing? And I heard recently last year that they were saying it was more coming closer to that happening.
Well,
which would be cool. I like to see what Peter Jackson would do with it.
I mean, I'm down for anything Peter Jackson makes. But that's a subject for another day. Now let's get into the one that I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot here. That Edgar Wright worked on.
I don't have much else to talk about this movie.
Ant-Man.
I mean, I do have a little bit, but
here's the thing with Ant-Man, right? Okay, so for those of you who don't know the story, basically, Edgar Wright spent 10 years trying to get Ant-Man made. It was one of his biggest passion projects. He started working on it, I think, in 2005. He spent, again, a decade trying to get it made. He took it to Marvel Studios because they own the rights, and they were going to make it part of the MCU, which is what they obviously ended up doing. But Edgar Wright didn't really want it to be part of a shared universe. He just kind of wanted it to be its own thing, and because of this, they clashed a lot, and they ended up firing Edgar Wright and replacing him with another guy named Peyton Reed. And here's my thing, right? Okay, Scott Pilgrim aside, right? I don't know if I would be okay with him doing a superhero movie. I mean, the odds are great that he wouldn't repeat the mistake he made with Scott Pilgrim, but who knows? That aside, I don't feel bad for him for losing this gig. I don't. I think that was one of the dumbest decisions any director has ever made. Oh my God, you're going to leave this passion project of yours that you've been working on for 10 years because you don't want a scene with the Falcon? Get the fuck over it. It's not that big a deal because you don't want them to have Hydra in it. Who cares? Just compromise. It's not that bad.
I think it was more to it than that.
No, he just didn't want to have to sacrifice. He didn't want to have to compromise and make it part of the universe. Like, we all know that's what it was. Why else would he have left?
Well, what I'm saying is that it wasn't just specifically those scenes. I feel like they were trying to... He isn't really used to producers kind of... I don't know, Marvel's kind of
Every
like...
director is used to producers
But
muscling
no, I know Marvel's kind of... Yeah, I don't really think that, it was much of his fault for leaving. I feel like he was pretty much in the right.
No. Because what you basically just said is what I just said. They were suggesting that he put, like, shared universe things in there, and he didn't like that, and he left. That's basically what you just said. There's no justification for leaving something you've spent 10 years on just because you don't want more. I'm sure they let him mostly do what he wanted, but they were just like, hey, you do have to establish here, especially since Ant-Man is the first guy we've done so far that's like an unknown, like he hasn't been shown yet, he's not part of the core Avengers. Like, we have to really establish the fact that this is in the MCU, and so maybe just here or there put a couple of scenes in, and if you really just can't handle a couple of scenes, like Hydra here, mentioning Tony Stark here, a Falcon scene here, but then like 95 to 97, I would even say is probably more accurate, percent of the movie is still your own thing. I mean, that's so petty. I can't imagine actually being that anal about it to the point where you leave the project. Yeah, it's a term. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like ridiculous to me, especially considering in Hollywood, that's a town of compromises. Sometimes you just got... And, like, first of all, usually when you have to make compromises on movies, it's way, way, way worse than this. Marvel Studios is usually pretty laid back with their compromise. They don't ask much. They're just like, okay, you gotta, like, do this, this, and this. We'll let you do what you want, but you gotta, like, set this up here. You gotta set that up there. And other than that, you have free reign. That's so laid back compared to the rest of Hollywood, and he couldn't handle that. I have no sympathy for him.
Either way, I feel like that, and you disagree, I feel like that losing his touch on the film kind of greatly affected the quality.
It may have. I don't know how he would have done it.
This movie would have been one of the best of, like, maybe top 5. Like,
it may have.
Top 10 for sure, maybe top 5.
It may have.
And
I don't know.
I just think that what we got, and listen, Ant-Man, at first I thought it was pretty good. And
I love it.
It's not a bad movie. It's not by any means like I wouldn't consider it a bad movie, but I've recently after rewatched it for like the 5th time. It's just there's nothing about it that really does it for me. I mean, there are some really clever jokes and ideas in the movie, but I feel like that was probably like the stuff that was just Edgar Wright.
Okay, first of all, this movie may not be like a Russo brothers movie or the first Iron Man, but like it's solid. I will not have you tarnishing the name of Ant-Man. I think it is a quaint, charming
like
little
ABC
movie.
TV show.
I don't
like
get what your
Agents of
problem
Shield.
is with the direction. It's
No,
not
just the cinematography.
It's not that.
It looks so bland.
It's really not that bad. Again, it's like nothing special, but it's not like that bad. And like, I think definitely what you said about all the funny stuff being from Edgar Wright, that's not true, because the Michael Pena flashbacks, that wasn't from him.
Okay,
and that's the best thing in the movie.
Yeah, that was not from him. And that was surprising to find out, but still, even if they brought that, and I'm sure that wasn't really Peyton Reed, that was more of
that
like
was
the
Adam
writer.
McKay.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, I think he I don't know how that movie would have turned out with him directing it. I think it's very possible that he would have improved it greatly. I think it's also very possible that he would have pulled another Scott Pilgrim. Well, most people would consider that a good thing.
Most people say he's pulled of the Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, wow, that's a terrible thing.
I guess if he's directing it, because he directed Scott Pilgrim very well. I guess if that's the case, if we're just talking him,
please make another Scott Pilgrim.
They're not
not a sequel. I mean, like a movie as good. As Scott Pilgrim.
Well, he's done that. All of his movies are better than Scott Pilgrim. But either way, Yeah. Whether he would have made Ant-Man better or worse is here or there. I'm sure he wouldn't have made it worse. I'm sure, I mean, we can all agree he's a better director than Peyton Reed. Like, by far.
I love how, like, that wasn't your opinion before until seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp. And now you're kind of, like, on the, like, yeah, he's not as good.
I mean, Peyton Reed, I don't have anything against Peyton Reed. I think
he's a really nice guy, but he's a hack.
I don't think so.
And he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
If anybody was at fault for Ant-Man and the Wasp, he was the last person at fault for that movie. But we'll discuss that another day. No, the editing, the script.
Okay.
Either way. So now we're just gonna take a moment to just talk about what he means to us, because we're both aspiring filmmakers. So just like ways he's influenced us, what he means to us, how he's inspired us. I'll go first.
Okay.
Since you are probably going to have to think about what to say. But yeah, I've already kind of touched on it throughout the episode, but I guess I'll just put it in more plain terms. I think he definitely has influenced me more so in the action department than in the comedy department, like, and also in the visual department, because like that's one of his big things is like he understands that this is a visual medium above all else, and he takes full advantage of that, and it's really inspiring to me. Like, it makes me want to, be a better director. It inspires me, like, visually, because I watch his movies and I see the editing that he's got, and I'm just like, oh my God, I need to learn how to, do that like he does it. And also, again, I've, like, written action sequences before, or like staged them out in my head before for like feature scripts that took direct influence from the final climax of Hot Fuzz, because oh my God, what a great, well shot action sequence, just so visceral and just and he is just so, all his movies are so tightly directed. Like, he really knows how to work a camera. It's really inspiring. And yeah, that's just, he definitely, I would say, has been a very big influence on me, like, at least action-wise. I think he is fantastic. He's one of my favorite directors working right now. I think he's one of the best of, like, the modern sort of 2000s director school, and I hope he keeps making movies like forever and ever. I hope he never retires like Quentin Tarantino's about to do. Just hell of a guy, hell of a director.
Wow. I don't know what to say about Edgar Wright. I guess I mean, I've kind of already talked about it a lot throughout the podcast, and his sort of the repetition of things he does in his movies with his snappy editing and his fast-paced, creative, quippy dialogue, and his dry sense of humor, and the way the Edgar Wright is a dude who really cares about his like what he's making. That's why he really doesn't, when you really think about it, he doesn't have that many movies in his filmography. In terms of his movies that he's done, like, just directed and written, like, as his own, he only has 5. And he's been making movies since, like, the early 2000s, and it's 2019, he only has 5 movies throughout all those years. So, like, he really cares about, I mean, he takes like a huge chunk of his life, like a couple, like 4 to 5 years just to make one of his movies. And that's just like, he dedicates so much time to each of his projects, because they're all, instead of, having just a bunch of movies and like some of them were okay and like you liked some more than others, and each one of his movies, you can say, at least in my opinion, is great, and that they all stand on their own, and that that's why he's so well known today, because people respect him for that. And I feel like he wouldn't be as popular if it wasn't because he cared so much about what he's doing, because he cares so much about the movie. The people watching care about the movie too. So when someone like doesn't give a shit and half-asses a movie, like Bryan Singer for Bohemian Rhapsody, Just like, sure, I guess I'll do it. And just like does the most blandest, like doesn't give a shit. And he's like, or like, what's his face who made the Fan 4 stick?
Josh Trank.
Yeah, who had to come every day on a set with like at least a 6-pack of beer. He was always high.
I didn't know.
Oh my god! Yeah, he every single day on set he always had a 6-pack. They never saw him without it. Crew member said he was always high when he came into work, and he was getting into arguments with the cast.
I knew that. He and Miles Teller almost got in a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Edgar Wright is nothing like Josh Trank.
The exact opposite, I would say.
Josh Trank is a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Edgar Wright is not. He is a brilliant director, very seemingly laid-back guy who is very cool and passionate, like you said. Yeah, thank you, Edgar Wright, for making so many great movies, even though it is weird how he's only made 5. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like he's had such a long career, but like he's only made 5 movies so far.
Well, he was supposed to make...
Right.
He was supposed
to make 6 because Ant-Man, but yeah, even still, that would be weird. Feels like he should have like 7 or 8 by now. Yeah, thank you very much, and looking forward to your next thing. You're not listening to this, but, just in general, I'm talking to you. I'm sure somewhere in the universe you can sense that I'm saying this right now.
Right.
Yeah, just thank you very much, and keep up the great work. Looking forward to your next one. So, as I do at the end of every one of my episodes, I am about to do my Apothecary Recommends. And this week, I'm going to recommend a movie from 1982 from a guy who we talked about a lot last week in the 70s episode, Sidney Lumet, one of my biggest heroes ever. A movie called The Verdict.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, because they referenced it on an episode of Better Call Saul. They sure did. Basically what it's about, if you saw that Better Call Saul scene, you know, because they literally recite the plot. What it's about is basically Paul Newman, shout out to Paul Newman, plays this kind of alcoholic lawyer who hasn't had a good case in a long time. He's kind of washed up, and that's why he's an alcoholic. He's just kind of like drowning his sorrows. But then one day he gets this case that comes across his desk about this woman who was killed due to negligence. She went to the hospital to give birth, and the doctor, through sheer incompetence, gave her the wrong anesthetic, and it killed her and the baby. And the hospital's owned by the Catholic Church, so, it's a pretty big case to take on, but he does it because he thinks it can, reestablish his reputation and get him back out there. And at first, that's the only reason he cares about it, but then eventually he comes to actually care about the case and wants to see justice done. And yeah, it's a great movie. Of course it is, because it's from Sidney Lumet. It's one of the absolute best courtroom dramas you'll ever watch. Has a magnificent script from the legendary David Mamet. For all you theater geeks out there, you know who David Mamet is.
I have no idea who that is.
He's a legendary playwright who also occasionally wrote screenplays. This being one of his most notable ones. And yeah, just imagine, if you will, a David Mamet plus Sidney Lumet combo. And yes, that is as amazing as it sounds. So definitely check it out. It's a fantastic movie. You definitely will not regret watching it. But yeah, I guess that's it for this episode. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment. I have an Instagram account now. For this podcast, so go follow that at MWTA Official on Instagram.
Yeah, go follow that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to... do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, my Snapchat. Follow that. It's in the description. Instagram in the description. Mm-hmm. My Twitter in the description.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if my Instagram's in the description. It's probably not. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
Well, then tell them just in case.
Also, my YouTube channel is in the description. Check out my YouTube channel. I haven't uploaded in a long time. I'm sorry about that. But shout out to that. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Peace out, y'all.
All right. Yeah, well, like you said, peace out, y'all. I'll see you next time. Take care.